Welcome back again to the Outer Dimensions podcast. We are in week 2 of our Hispanic Heritage Month, and obviously, you know who we are. We're Dre and Dave. We're those interdimensional podcasters who like to discuss movies and anything and everything in between. Dre, why don't you tell the good folks what our theme is this week?
Hola, mucho gusto, gente. Es el mes de los gente que están hispanos. What I just said was thank you, everybody. Welcome for coming through. This is the month celebrating Hispanic heritage. Yes, folks, it is a great month. I think it's fun. It's a fun month. I love doing it. And as a teacher, it's one of those things that we had a lot of fun doing in the classroom, but as a content creator, it's even more fun because you get to see what trends, what things work. And this week, we did classics last week. And the classics, boy, did the classics bring a lot of great conversation, a lot of great energy. And I'm hoping that we get that same energy tonight with animated films. Yes, we are talking the animated films. Now, why, oh, why do people think that there can't be Hispanic animated films? There are, not a lot, and they're mostly they were they weren't subtitled. They're not like Japanese, Chinese, or French,
There's no
or
dubs
as
needed here.
there's no dubs. It's if you watched it, most of them, like I said, there's two films from Disney, one from Sony, and one from DreamWorks. I think it was. I can't remember correctly. But let's jump into them, and we'll start slow. And if you guys had a chance to like do your homework and actually watch them, you guys can give your opinions about them. So let's jump into our first one.
But before we do that, Dre, say hello to the chat. We got Rolando hanging out in the chat. Haven't seen anyone else comment just yet, but guys, if you're catching us on replay, don't forget we are available on Spotify, the Outer Dimensions podcast. You can always catch us in all of our past previous episodes. We have 15 episodes currently on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast from. So if you need something to listen to while you're at work or a long drive, don't forget to look us up there. And of course, we do this every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. But don't fret if you can't catch us or join us live. You can always catch a replay or check us out on Spotify. So please don't forget that. So let's get it going.
All right, now into the first movie of the four of these. It is The Book of Life. This was released in 2014. It's produced by Guillermo del Toro, which, again, if you
Yeah.
guys are a fan of Guillermo's work, he is obviously most famous for his work on Hellboy, his work on Pan's Labyrinth, The Shape of Water, several other
Pacific Rim.
movies, Pacific Rim, which was his nod to. And folks, if you are not a fan of any of the kaiju style, or I shouldn't say kaiju, just mecha anime, that was what his nod was to Evangelion, which eventually we will do a review of the Pacific Rim
And
saga.
honestly, Pacific Rim, the first movie, I can watch it over and over again. Pacific Rim 2, not so much.
The anime is actually really good. The Netflix anime series is really, really good. And I've watched both seasons of that. So this obviously has a very large cast, and a lot of people got angry because the lead character was a Mexican character, but was not of Mexican descent. So Diego Luna, we all know who Diego Luna is. If you guys have not watched the Agents of Shield Marvel show, Diego Luna played the Ghost Rider in that show. He was also in Terminator Dark Fate, which was the last Terminator film that Schwarzenegger was in, where he actually played the like killer Terminator from the alternate future. So just a little bit of knowing. Zoe Saldana, we all know who she is. That's Gamora, folks. Danny Trejo, Hector Elizondo. Hector Elizondo, a lot of people don't know. He's actually very well famous amongst Latin American, um, what was it, like variety shows and comedy shows of the 80s in America and other Latin American countries. Cheech Marin, Gabriel Iglesias, everybody knows Fluffy, and Channing freaking Tatum, right? Channing Tatum. Like, why would people say Magic Mike? Yeah, he plays the lead character in this movie. So it's a cute story about growing up around the Day of the Dead, and it talks a little bit about it talks a lot about the culture, but it's a lot more focused on the characters. It's a cute film. It did get a Golden Globe nomination for Best Animated Film in 2014. It lost because I think it was a Disney film that won it that year. Obviously, I mean, very rarely, unless it's an anime, does a Disney film not take a Golden Globe home or an Oscar. The budget was $50 million. It brought home $100 million in the box office. It's an hour and 35-minute runtime. My littlest one recently sat and watched it. She was interested, but she wasn't nearly as interested because it doesn't do it didn't have that Disney zing. And I say that because I feel Disney has that touch, the magic. You know, that's their shtick, is the magic. So it gets a beautiful, it did good on IMDb. And again, for all y'all that know, yes, do I go to more than one aggregator site? I go to 7. Yes, we know Rotten Tomatoes is under investigation. Am I going to hold every film accountable to their rating? No. Here's why. Any film prior to 2018, I'm going to hold that is an actual aggregate, that they're actually using statistics to rate it. Any movie after 2018, I will say I'm going to be a little bit more suspicious of the rating and trust more the fan rating than the Rotten Tomatoes. So it says the Book of Life's gorgeous animation is a treat, but it's a pity the story lacks the same level of craft and detail that is thrilling visuals provide. And that is true. I told you it didn't have that
Well,
that
I
thing.
mean, like you're saying, Disney has that written down. I mean, Disney kind of wrote the recipe. I mean, all the way back when Disney first was Disney. You talk about the magic. Of course, it was the magical world of Disney. They got cartoons down, but I mean, it's not every animation movie is going to be a home run every time. There are some movies that I think became more cult classics than anything else. If we look at animated movies, not just Hispanic, but just animated movies in general.
No, and that's true. It's like when you look at Disney, and I'm going to break it down like this. If you break Disney down in a part, you're looking at Disney as what
Break it
films.
down.
I know we're not. This is a family friendly episode, folks. So there are. I get. I wanted to totally, but I can't. There's so many films you can look at that cancel culture has now started attacking films like Aladdin, Lion King, um, The Little Mermaid. All these movies that were childhood classics for Dave and I. That really that enamored you with the world of Disney. You were like sucked into that universe. Like, people didn't like or know Arabic culture, or maybe didn't have an interest, and then they see Aladdin, and suddenly they want to read 1001 Arabian Nights.
Uh-huh.
People didn't read the Hans Christian Andersen Little Mermaid story and suddenly go read the story. So Disney did create that magic and that interest, and I feel like Book of Life kind of lost out on that. And I know Dave didn't get to watch it, so it's not a big deal. Like, I don't feel like if you didn't watch it, you didn't really miss out, because I think you make out
Streaming
better with the
services.
other movies.
That's my excuse, people. In case you're wondering, I did catch our other movies, of course.
And of course, the other movies are phenomenal. And I think Dave even owns at least one of them on Blu-ray. You own one of those, not the you
No?
don't. Wow, I'm
No.
surprised. Maybe for your birthday,
Yeah, who knows?
Maybe Santa will bless you for your birthday.
But so let's take a look at your numbers here. We got
I
50
did. I did
million
the
for a
numbers.
budget. You already did?
Yeah, we did the numbers.
Okay.
It's this is one we could bypass. Like I feel like
Okay.
it's sad. I don't really want to bypass it. I just think it's a cute movie for what it is, but there wasn't a lot of options for me to
I
pick
mean,
out
and
of.
I mean, let me just take a moment because you talked about Diego Luna, how
Yes,
he was a Ghost Rider. In my book, he's the best portrayal of Ghost Rider we've had in live action,
hands
and
down. And he was supposed to show up.
he deserves to have his butt in the MCU. That's all I'm saying.
Well, technically, he was. If we count Agents of Shield as part of the MCU, which they do, it
That's
is.
some camps do and some camps don't, unfortunately.
That's
But
true.
if I have it my way, then yes, because they did have the dark hold, and he took a version of it into because he can cross dimensions just like Doctor Strange and everybody else. So,
And
but
technically, also
in
the
that
other thing that
charger, oh
you know, you know what was making me mad though, Dave, was
yeah,
in Agents of Shield. If you followed, I don't know if you saw the Hulu series Hellstrom, which
no,
was the okay. So Hellstrom was like the Werewolf by Night main character, Elsa Moonblood.
okay,
That was her and her brother are actually the main characters of that series.
okay, I'm gonna have
They
to check that out.
rumored they rumored Ghost Rider showing up in that show because they mentioned his character. They don't mention him by name, but they mentioned they're like, yeah, there's the Rider of Vengeance, and they know he's there. And I was like, Diego Luna was supposed to show up on that show, but because Disney was undergoing a bunch of stuff with Marvel
Hmm.
and they couldn't get him on that show, it was like that's where we lost the Runaways. That's where we lost Cloak and Dagger, and Cloak and Dagger then went to Freeform, and that's a whole. And if folks, if you guys are
That's a whole other episode, guys.
yeah, if you guys ever want us to do that, we can do a whole breakdown of like the alternate MCU shows that people have not watched, like Cloak and Dagger, Hellstrom. I wouldn't say Agents of Shield and the Runaways. Those are all shows that are actually very canon to their comics, but are not canon to like Dave said. There's camps that don't consider it canon to
Yeah,
the MCU.
but I mean, Zoe Saldana, she's appeared in a lot of different movies that really weren't blockbusters, but they're really good, enjoyable movies. Um, one movie that comes to mind is The Losers. Uh, that was actually a comic book based movie, but
Great movie. Chris Evans. You had
I mean,
Negan, Captain America, Gamora,
yep.
all in the same movie. How could you go wrong?
And of course, the bad guy. You remember the bad guy from Lost Boys? He played David.
I forgot.
Oh yeah, it's a or not David. He played the one brother. I can't think of his name, but anyway, that's a highly underrated movie. I would love to do a review on that sometime in the future because it basically it's like the comic book version of A Team is the best way to put it. A Team, but cooler and hipper. That's all I'm going to say. So you want to snap on to the next one, right?
Yeah, let's jump on to the next one.
Okay, next. Whoa, whoa, whoa! I went back
Oh, we
too far.
passed. Yeah. All right.
So Coco. Before we get into this, either I'm getting old and more sensitive. A couple of these movies made my eyes water.
This one does. I cry
Um,
every time I watch it.
this one, I mean, I will say this before Dre gets into the cast and the numbers, all the aggregators, all the metrics. This was a movie that like I didn't watch this until today. I watched it actually today at work. But everything surprised me. Of course it's Disney and Pixar, so the animation is that smooth. Everything's very, very, very artistic. I love how they show, the spirit world versus the human world, and I love the mythos that as a non-Hispanic is being presented to me. it really, I think, because I mean, I knew of Day of the Dead because grade school, I took Spanish for 8 years. I can't speak to save my life, but I mean, we were taught, certain aspects of it, but it kind of expanded upon the Day of the Dead and how, like, what if the Day of the Dead really brings on this more spiritual, more in depth kind of, I don't know, like, not necessarily, I don't want to use the word canon, but like a legend or, like I said, mythos. It just kind of expands upon it. And it really shows the importance of remembering those who aren't here anymore.
Mhm.
And it just,
It's
the music was fantastic. The story even has a few twists in here.
oh yeah, there's
uh,
some good twists.
I mean, it almost feels like, in the beginning it feels like an old folk tale, like a, I don't want to say like a grim fairy tale, but like an old style tale that you would have been told way back when. And it brings, like, this, honestly, I'd say 20 years from now it's still going to be a hit. It's going to be a classic
Oh, it will be.
20
Yeah,
years from now. um
yeah.
just the visuals and everything, it just, there was no dull moments in this story. I mean, this is something you can definitely watch over and over again. Now, I'm a 44-year-old Caucasian, and I was enjoying the music. I enjoyed every aspect of it, and it's definitely something I could see as a Disney classic 20 years later.
Mhm.
Easily 20 or more years later. I mean, this is something that, we're in 2023. You could show this to kids in 2063, and I'm sure they will still get it because there's no establishing it in modern times, so to speak. It to me comes off as a timeless tale.
It is.
And that's how I felt about it.
So let's jump
But,
into the
like,
metrics.
go ahead.
Let's jump into the metrics because I think that this movie, um, just from looking at the cast, Gael Garcia Bernal, he actually, a lot of people did not know him. He is not very famous into many people outside of the Latin American community, but in Hollywood, he has been booming since before this movie and after this movie. Actually, he just put out a film that was filmed in Latin America called Cassandro, and the movie is actually about the first openly gay lucha libre star, because
Okay.
in lucha libre there it's a very masculine driven culture, and there is a female side to lucha libre, and there's actually the comedic side to lucha libre, but it's still a very, the mindset was not to allow like openly gay men or openly
Sure.
gay women to be in lucha libre. So he's in that, and we're not going to review that movie now because it's we are still on strike with our brothers and sisters, so we're not going to review it. But maybe next year, when the strike's hopefully over, we'll come
Hmm.
back and review that film. Edward James Olmos.
Maybe,
Need I say more?
maybe we'll
Royalty.
review it with other wrestling films.
There are, and that's another one I would actually love to do. Benjamin Bratt. A lot of people don't realize Benjamin Bratt is Mexican. Yes, he's half Mexican, folks. And Anthony Gonzalez. Now, the story behind this film, like Dave said, it's pitted as, young boy does not want to follow in the parents' footsteps. His family owns a cobbling. And for those of you that don't know what a cobbler is a person that makes shoes. So in Mexico, that is actually a traditional job. It was a job in Latin America to make
Hmm.
shoes, and they made shoes out of everything. Same in Africa. If you could find a tire, you would make shoes out of it.
Well,
And
I mean,
that's what they were doing.
not just that, but I mean, his whole family's against music.
And we're not going to get into the reason as to
Yeah,
why, because that kills the story.
spoilers.
There's the music, obviously, with the guitar at the center of the splitting the family, you get into that. Now there's a whole cast of characters about Day of the Dead, and really, like Dave said, what hits home is the idea of being forgotten. You We live on through our memories. People say that, even when you're gone, you still live on, right? Because My mother may have been dead for 10 years, but she lives on in memories. I tell my daughter and I tell my granddaughter and I tell, I'll tell my kids and my kids' kids.
Mm-hmm.
She'll live on and I'll live on. That's how this is. But imagine you're forgotten and how wiped out you'd be from existence because you no longer, there's no memory of you.
And
And
that's a plot point here.
a very big plot point, and obviously at the core of it is family, and I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a very solid film. It's goofy, it's funny, it's scary at moments. Like there really is some really funny moments. The music is by far, hey Cobb, by far the music, the score in this movie. It's on my phone. I have the whole score for this film. It's I love it. When we went to
Mm-hmm.
Disney actually last year, Epcot dedicated their Mexico pavilion to Coco. So like when you go into the Mexico pavilion, it's all it used to be the Three Amigos, which is Donald Duck and the two parrots. Now that's a little
Mm-hmm.
part of it, but Coco and now Encanto is taking that over, which I think is really
Yeah.
cool. Obviously, let's get into some metrics. The budget for this film was $225 million. It nearly it tripled its budget outside in the box office. It was it was overwhelmingly successful. And what's funny is I didn't put it in the
Now, what does
premiere
that
date.
translate into today?
No, this is yes, I know. It's 6 years later. Um, what's interesting is that the movie aired in around Halloween in Mexico City,
Mm-hmm.
and was like a raucous success. There was a red carpet. It was everybody was there. Then they did their premiere in the States, obviously, which was a few days before Thanksgiving, and blew people away. It blew me away when I watched it. Like I said, every time I've watched this movie, I've cried, and
Well,
it knows where to tug at your
I
heartstrings.
mean, it's a real. I mean, it's a family film. I mean, like I said, I could easily see this being a classic, whether you're Hispanic or not. I mean,
Yeah,
certain things are gonna hit you because, like Dre was saying, it really focuses on remembering those who aren't here anymore, those who are no longer with us, keeping their memories alive. Because I mean, I'm approaching this as it's going to be 4 years. My father's passed. It's 11. It's going to be 11 years that my mom passed in January. So I mean, those kinds of things they do resonate with you. Because I always told people, because like a friend of mine asked me, he says you're always talking about your dad. I said, well, yeah. I explained to him that my dad had passed away, but the way I keep my family alive in me is that I keep them alive in my memories. I tell stories. It's like a lot of
hmm
times on my channel, if I'm doing a mod on something, I'm fixing something, I always mention my dad taught me if you don't have the tools, you make them. And that's part of me keeping my dad around, keeping him alive in me. I think we all do that. And like you said earlier, you keep your mother alive through your daughter and your family. I mean, this movie hits it on so many different levels.
it really does. And if you're a
I
dog
mean,
lover or if you're a pet lover, this movie
yeah,
hits you. Let's just put it this way: it Mike Tyson's you. If you thought you
yeah.
could get away, like I'm a pet lover, pop, it gets you. If you got kids, it'll pop you. If
Yeah.
you are a person that is very tight knit with your family, it hits an all the Disney do they hit a home run. That's why
I
it
mean,
won
it's
best
like
film.
it's like Day of the Dead. Okay, they're honoring Day of the Dead. It also gives me, and don't shoot me for this, Dre. It also gives me never-ending story vibes because
No, I wouldn't shoot you for that. That I would
because
agree with 100%.
because you get the young boy who he wants to he wants to prove that he wants to embrace music. He wants to, like you said, strike out on his own, so to speak. But he finds himself in a situation that kind of throws him down this rabbit hole, so to speak, this journey that you know he wants to kind of have both worlds, so to speak. without giving away anything. He wants to kind of have the best of both worlds, but then finds himself in this other world, and kind of like everything that he knew is kind of just twisted, turned upside down. I think is the best way of putting it.
Yeah, it's
But
definitely he's
it's
definitely
that
torn.
kid on their own. Their future, their fate is kind of in their own hands, and they're going on this fantastical adventure. And we don't really see that all that often anymore. I hate to say, I really don't think that we see a story
Stranger
of.
Things. Stranger Things did it,
Well, you got a group of kids though. I mean,
but that's
he's
still but yeah, but Eleven's the
yeah,
main character. Let's be real,
yeah,
Eleven's the main character,
yeah.
and it's her story.
But I
We
mean, like,
got past the boys.
but
We're really telling her
a
story.
family friendly story. Let's just put it that way.
You don't consider that's a family friendly Stranger Things?
Well,
I
for
would.
some, I sadly I can't watch it with my wife because she doesn't like scary stuff. So,
My wife has watched it. She likes it. So I feel bad because it's solid.
but I
But
mean,
we're
let's
getting off. We're getting off. We're
yeah,
getting off topic. We're getting off topic. And anyway, like Dave said, this
bring
movie
it home
does hit you.
with the nominations there.
So obviously, this movie gets two nominations. Best song. The best song is "Remember Me," which I just watched a YouTuber who went to Oogie Boogie Bash in California, and they had Ernesto de la Cruz
Hmm.
playing the song. He was a guy in Disneyland on
Yeah,
stage.
I've seen pictures of or clips of people who do dressed as the Coco and the Encanto characters. So,
So he
but
was there. He's singing it at the park. So
and if correct me if I'm wrong, they actually show, or I shouldn't say they show, but they play like three different covers of it, three different
um,
arrangements of it, I believe. One in the
there's
end credits.
yeah. You get the
So
end credits one, which is they're all English, and I know on the
yes.
there's two versions of the album, and one
Mhm.
of the versions, I think the international version of the album has it in Spanish, so you can actually hear the song completely sung in Spanish. So and Benjamin Bratt plays Ernesto de la Cruz. So I'm not gonna let you guys. I'm not gonna tell you any more than that. Um, this movie, like I said, it got 13 other nominations,
Yeah.
but that was
One.
across the Oscars, the Golden Globes, the it was gonna win the year it came out. It didn't have any other competition. I personally felt, and it was the best holiday movie and the best representation of Latino culture I'd seen in a long time. And I'm not Mexican, folks. I'm Puerto Rican. So for me, Day of the Dead's not something Puerto Ricans celebrate, but we respect it as part of the Caribbean culture that we share with our Mexican and our Latin
Yeah.
American brethren. So again, watch this movie, Disney Plus, hands down. I mean, it's 100%. 97% Rotten Tomatoes. No, 100%. IMDb
It's 100% Dre.
4.4. It's for Dre. It's two thumbs up. 100%.
Listen, we're starting something in this episode. This is 100% Outer Dim certified.
Yes, we're gonna start. We're gonna make a stamp for that. That's a T-shirt, folks.
100% Outer Dimension certified. There you go. So we're gonna move on now. You went over the budget, 225
Yeah,
million.
I did all that
Box office. I mean,
three
how
times.
often do we see animated films do this? Not too often. Let's be honest.
The next one does.
But I mean, to hit best song and best animated film in 2017. I mean, yeah, in the 90s we saw stuff like this with the like Pocahontas and a few other films. You know,
Mulan, Pocahontas,
yeah.
Little Mermaid,
But I mean,
Aladdin,
I
Beauty and the
mean, it's
Beast.
been far and few since a Disney movie kind of picked those up. So it's almost like harking the an era of kind of like coming back to the musicals and coming out with original stories instead of these live action reboots. And I'm not going to bring anything up anymore.
Wait, just before we get into that, Disney does do something that's very cool, which I love the Imagineers. If you
Mhm.
don't know what an Imagineer is, folks, I'm a bit of a Disney file. The Imagineers are people that they research the actual like history. Moana, they actually sent people to the South Pacific and to Hawaii and to, you know, Tonga and into Samoa to learn the culture, to learn the language, to learn about the people. And it's not like they go there for like 6 months, they go there for like 4 years. So these movies have a very rich, deep culture, history behind them to give to us fans so we can digest it. Because Disney, one of Walt's visions was to share culture across the world. And if you can do it, what better way through film, you know, and music. And you
Well,
get that.
they want to convey that authenticity.
And they do. And that's why this cast is all Hispanic. You know, like they did with the Princess and the Frog. Most of the cast in the Princess and the Frog is all African American.
So are you
You
saying
know,
Channing Tatum couldn't have been in this movie? He could have been the dog.
he could have been. Well, Alan Tudyk probably could have been in this movie too because he's in everything.
Yeah, but he's hilarious and he can do a lot of the different voices.
And
So
I love him. Yeah, because he's hey hey. He's not Polynesian, but he was hey hey and Pua.
he's also been
So
a few droids before too. So
that's true. And he's not a
and an
droid.
alien.
So obviously this one, let Dave scroll too fast. There we go. This one is my absolute all-time personal favorite movie. And
Shocker.
I know, go figure that on my desk sits a little
And
one.
this was just a year after Coco.
So yes, this movie obviously, I'm gonna give it to Avi Arad and Amy Pascal. They're the producers of this film, and they're the
Yep.
ones that actually did Across the Spider Verse as well. This film was something most fans had been waiting for since the Ultimates universe first debuted a Miles Morales alternate Spider Man to us. And
Yes.
then when we found out we were getting it, and this movie took 2+ years to make, I can't tell you how amazing it was that I even got to be in the same room as Shamiak Moore because he was at GalaxyCon this year.
Mm-hmm.
So he was there, and so was Yuri, who is the voice of Spider-Man from the video game for PlayStation. But obviously, this movie is hands down, hands down, the best Spider-Man movie
Well, I mean,
we have
look at the
had.
cast right there. You get Shamik Moore, Haley Steinfeld. Who knows? Maybe the future Mrs. Josh Allen. I mean, she's coming off Bumblebee and a whole bunch of other stuff. I mean, she's really blowing up now.
And a music
Nicholas
career.
Nicholas Cage as like a supporting character in here, which I mean, we haven't really seen Nick Cage play a supporting character since like Kick Ass. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
Kick
because I
Ass would
mean,
be his
we
first
haven't
one in a
seen him do
while.
a supporting character role, and he played the Spider-Man Noir just perfectly, and I can't wait for the third film when he's coming back.
Oh God,
Luna
they look
Lauren,
so.
Luna Lauren Velez, Lily friggin' Tomlin, a
Yep,
comedy legend herself.
and she played Octavia.
No,
Mahershala
Lily
Mahershala
Tomlin
Ali.
played Aunt May. You
Oh,
think there's a
yeah, she
difference?
was Aunt May. She was Aunt
Yes.
May. That's right. I
Get your
forgot.
Spider-Man characters right.
Oh
And he
please.
says he loves the movie. I don't know.
I love the movie.
And of
Own it.
course,
Love it.
I'm sorry. He's always going to be Cottonmouth to me.
Liev Schreiber.
No,
Oh,
Cottonmouth
Mahershala Ali.
from Luke Cage. I know
Oh yeah.
he's supposed to be Blade. If they ever do make the movie, because it's
Uh,
still isn't still
okay.
having director issues.
It's no. Blade's been the director issue's been solved. It's in filming. It's now because of it was COVID delayed, and now we're strike delayed. So
Yeah,
he's Blade. He is signed, sealed, delivered as Blade. When we will see him show up in the MCU,
I don't know,
2026.
but Blade might be coming out of the Charger with a walker. We don't know. I
um,
mean, like he's such a great actor. I remember first thing I ever saw him in was a show called The 4400 on USA
yep,
Network. Not the
that was a
second
great
version of it,
show.
the original version.
Yeah, not the CW. The
No,
CW
no,
version of the
no,
4400 was terrible.
no, but the original version on USA Networks. He was fantastic on there. he just blown up since then. I mean, I loved him as Cottonmouth and Luke Cage. He was just great at being a villain. And Liev Schreiber. I mean, if you guys don't know
Kingpin.
him, I mean,
Have you not watched?
Wolverine. I mean,
He
you
was
know,
Sabretooth in the Wolverine in
no,
Wolverine's Origins, X-Men Origins Wolverine.
what was the show on Showtime he was on?
Oh God, yes.
You know what I'm talking about.
Donovan,
Donovan.
Donovan Tate. Yeah,
I
Tate
mean,
Donovan.
he is a great actor and just it just I mean, it's just an amazing freaking cast in here. It's a different story. And I mean, it just like it's a home run movie because I mean, personally, me, you guys know. I mean, come on, my channel's Dave's Dimension. This is the Outer Dimension podcast. I mean, we deal with different realms and different timelines. This is a perfect movie right there. Okay. Two, I mean, we get a very young spider hero here.
13 years old is how old he was when he started.
13 years old. A different set of powers too, you know. And I mean, I think they did everything so fantastic and dare I say spectacular.
You got to be careful with that. So two things that Dave did not mention. Inside of the cast, Luna Lauren Velez, we know her as the mom. She plays the mom character. She is also a former character actress from a little known Fox show called New York City Undercover, where she played a detective for the DEA and worked as an undercover cop on the show.
She was also a police captain or a lieutenant, I believe, lieutenant or captain in Dexter.
Yes, she was. So right there, that's how great
me,
an actress.
Listen, I watched her way back on New York Undercover, the one that was on Fox.
Yeah, I loved it. That show was
because
great.
that was the joint back then.
Yeah, Malik Yoba. Malik Yoba playing. He was the bald black cop, and
that was after Cool Runnings, folks.
Yes, folks. Yeah, Malik Yoba. Yeah, that's Malik Yoba after Cool Runnings. So believe that he was actually really cool. Again, this Shamik Moore. If you meet him, he's such a very cool, down to earth dude. One of the cool things, I got to briefly just kind of ask him a question as I was walking by his booth. I was like, "How is it being Miles?" And he's like, "It's fun because it's being." He's like, I love the comic book, I love the character. And he's like, it wasn't hard for me to figure out how to slide into this character. And I thought that was awesome just to kind of ask that question before his like assistant at the table got mad and I walked away because I did that for free. But I digress. You know, it's like the guy brings a life to Miles as you needed to, because Miles's character is deep. He is in a world where there's a Spider-Man that already exists, and he was just being himself. You know, a biracial kid living in Brooklyn who's smart and is just kind of walking the line. You know, for me to meet this character in the the mid 2000s was like, where the hell was Brian Michael Bendis hiding this guy? Like, this should have been something that I could have grown up with, you know. And it's such a cool concept. You know, he lives in the city. He thrives on hip hop culture. He's a toy collector. Yes, folks, Miles Morales is a toy collector. And there's just so many cool facets to his personality that you gotta love the character. And this movie, since it's part of a trilogy, is the Miles origin story movie. So I'm giving you that heads up.
Now, do you feel that Miles was Marvel's answer to Blue Beetle?
No, I think because we already had Hispanic characters in the MCU already. There were several characters that were like Hispanic, but like not really talked about.
So, I mean, like their attempt at getting like, okay, we need to get a character who he's Hispanic or he's, you know, different ethnicity, but we need someone that can really grab people. That's going to be not just someone who's in the background or someone who teams up occasionally, but someone who, I mean, let's face it, Spider-Man. Everyone knows who Spider-Man is. You know,
I
so
think Bendis, when he wrote the character, from what I can tell from reading the Ultimate Universe and seeing how Peter Parker was killed, because for those of you that don't know, spoiler alert, I'm not gonna forget the spoiler alert, folks. If you haven't read the comic, go and read it. It's an excellent comic book. The Ultimate Spider-Man ends because Peter Parker is overtly in public killed without the mask on in Brooklyn in front of Aunt May's house by Green Goblin, who is unmasked to be Norman Osborn. When he's killed in that alternate universe, Miles sees it on the news. And that triggers there to be this whole, like, a world without Spider Man. Blue Beetle, Jaime Reyes was sort of like already a thing in the DCEU and not the entertainment side of it, more the comic book side of it and the cartoon side of it already. Because he's been around. Like you and I talked about this, Dave, off screen a couple weeks ago. That we Blue Beetle, I think, he's been around for at least 12 years, 13 years, because he was on Justice League Unlimited. He was in Justice League. He was
Young
in
Justice.
Young Justice,
Yep.
which did 7 seasons. So he's been a mainstay character around, and he's been in the cartoon animated movies with the Teen Titans. So
Yep.
we know he's been around.
Smallville.
And he did show up in Smallville, which I totally had forgotten about, and then I had to Google it and then go to YouTube and see the episode. So that was actually pretty cool to watch. But I digress. Just when you look at this film based on its Oscar win, it is the first film that's not Disney, since Rango. Rango was Johnny Depp, and that was our boy Tim Burton.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked Rango. It was weird, but I liked Rango. So you have to say 7 years Disney dominated. Now, mind you, during those years, Disney got its run for its money because it had Ponyo, which was a Studio Ghibli. Studio Ghibli has been giving Disney its run for its money because every movie I'm about to tell you is from Studio Ghibli. Howl's Moving Castle, Princess Mononoke, what was it? Spirited Away. All got nominated for Best Film, but did not win because a Disney film I think it was Brave, Up. Oh crap! It was Brave, Up, and like
I don't think I've heard of Oh Crap.
yeah. Oh crap was one of those like under the cover ones before Disney Plus came around. But for those of you that might remember the other movies that came in its place, those were Studio Ghibli had some major home run hitters that were Golden Globe winners, but not contenders for an Oscar. And for this movie to take an Oscar, mind you, Black Panther got an Oscar nomination. How many superhero movies get Oscar nominations, folks? Donut, 0. Black Panther, Dark Knight, just to name 2. So budget small by modern day standards, $90 million. Because
Yes.
usually animated films, and that's kind of a bit of a point of contention with Disney right now. If you guys watch, was it Matt Pat on the Film Theory channel on YouTube? He always makes a joke that other studios outside of Disney budget under $100 million for their movies, and they're wildly successful. Disney budgets their movies at 200 plus dollars a film, and sometimes they don't even hit a home run. So just to put it on the level, $384.3 million. Obviously, is part of a trilogy because we know the sequel, Across the Spider-Verse, was just released on Blu-ray not even
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks ago, and it is already the #1 Blu-ray selling out everywhere. The only other Blu-ray I think that is competing right now, and I'm going to take it out, is this one. For those of you that have not gotten this, it is the 4K Batman Mask of the Phantasm. So this is the only other Blu-ray that's competing for animated film for this year. Now, obviously, when I state that Across the Spider-Verse, probably one of the most phenomenal films you're going to see this year, and I still say if it doesn't win an Oscar, I will be surprised because Elemental did not touch that movie. And I'm biased, mind you. So, again, when you get Tom Holland to say your movie was cool and that it was the best Spider-Man movie to date.
That's ever been made.
Coming from an actor who plays the current Spider-Man in the MCU.
Well, I mean, that statement it's not wholly unbelievable because Tom Holland is a Spider-Man fan, for one.
Of course.
Two, I mean, that's like I might get hate from this. I mean, think of this as Batman Beyond. I think that's a very comparable.
No hate. Very comparable.
Because you get the Spider-Man Peter Parker who falls, and then we get a new Spider-Man that suddenly shows up. He's not as big, obviously he's much younger, and I'm that's why I'm comparing this to Batman Beyond, because you hit, of course, instead of 20 or so years later, this is only maybe months after Peter Parker died, maybe a year.
No, not even. It's week. It's weeks. It's like a week or two. It's like a week or two. If you follow the storyline, in the comic book, it was like months had transpired in the Ultimate Universe. In this movie, it was like a couple days.
About the specific origin, because that's kind of spoiler for the sequel.
Yes, because you need to watch.
I don't want to necessarily say anything about that, but I mean, just the look of Miles. Miles went, eventually evolves into this black suit. Okay. But he's still, we all know Miles is, he's rocking his Nikes. He's got his hoodie and his tunes going on, I mean, this, I'm surprised this movie didn't make more money off the, the product placement. Hello.
It did, because Nike, Jordan's actually re-released the shoes the year the film came out.
Yep.
And then they made variants on the shoes, which are now going for $3,000 or $4,000 a pair.
I'm not even going to mention the Hot Toys.
We're not going to, because I'm getting one. I will be getting one. Yes.
But I mean, like, it's, he's a different kind of a Spider-Man. And yes, he does get a mentor in this movie. If you've seen it, you know what we're talking about. I don't want to give too much away, but I mean, it's, it's just a fun movie. Like when I first, I'll admit it. When I first saw him, I was like, they're really gonna they're gonna move into the Miles, but how's, because the reason why I was saying that was, I know that usually if there's one, because like with TV shows, if there's a Superman on the big screen, they can't do a Superman on the small screen or vice versa. So I was thinking in my head, okay, they have live action Peter Parker, so how are they going to get? I mean, is this just going to be complete standalone? That's what was confusing me by the whole thing. But then, my wife was like, "Well, it's an animated Spider-Man. Are you still going to want to see it?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to want to see it." And we went to the theaters and saw it, even though this is right before the pandemic and everything. And it was a fun vibe. You're going on the ride with Miles, and I really enjoyed that.
And something that people don't one may wonder, why did this movie make the list? Well, when I went to there were several Hispanic websites that I went to, and this movie was listed on there in the top 5 movies to show for Hispanic heritage, and I kept wondering why. Then I looked at myself and I said, why am I researching this? This is easy. I'm a biracial kid. Well, I'm multiracial. But for me, imagine growing up seeing myself, a little brown boy that could have been a Spider-Man. You know, not
Yeah.
not the typical white skin, brown hair, brown eyed, or blonde hair, blue eyed Captain America, or black hair, blue eyed Batman. This was a character that was a main character, and he took the role reluctantly because he wanted to save Brooklyn, and has blown up in popularity, not only in pop culture, across every medium you can think of. Miles Morales exists in some way, shape, or form in people's houses, regardless of the color of your skin.
Well, Dre,
Everybody
I'm going to
likes
show
this
you
guy.
something very quickly, okay?
Mhm. Yeah, I have that. I have that entire run.
What if Miles Morales is Cap?
Yep,
Hey, we could get this movie. You never know.
I love that book. That was actually a great book. It's a great series. It was a great miniseries that came out last year. Um, Come tune into my channel to do the sort of stuff, because I know a lot of people don't like comics, and we don't talk comics on the show, but we mention it. But again, as a kid that's a biracial kid, or a mixed race kid, and myself as a mixed race adult male, this is good, and I feel like it's a great teaching moment, um, to show people that this is the reality of the world. Mixed race people exist, and they can be popular characters in the media. You know, I feel like it's a must see. You know, this is I think this is one of those films that I'd put in your top 10 movies in your life you need to sit and watch, even if you don't like animated films. There
I
were
mean,
people
like,
that did not like animated
well,
films and saw this movie.
look what you put down there where what Chris Pratt said.
Mhm.
Chris Pratt, who worked with Lord and Miller on the Lego movie, described it as an emotionally moving, cutting edge, progressive, diverse, funny, meta, action packed, silly, visually stunning masterpiece. Well, that does sound like Chris Pratt, let's be honest.
But it's 100% on point. But it is meta. But we're not going to get into the things of it. Watch the film. If you haven't, folks, if you don't own the first one, Target selling and Best Buy selling and Walmart selling the dual
And
DVDs
in
for
digital
30
copies,
bucks.
VUDU is doing bundles with the two movies as well.
So you can pay, I think it's like $25, and you get both the first Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse for like 30 bucks. Not a bad thing if you don't own the films on Blu-ray, which I think you should. They're a great addition to your library. I am going to go off script here, Dave. There was something I read today that is, I know I'm going to go a little off script, and I want to look at the time just to make sure if I go off script. All right, so I'm going to go slightly off script for a little bit. Um, Blue Beetle just got released onto digital, and I think it's going to be on Max this weekend. If it's not already on Max, it should be on Max this week. Um, and several people hated the film. I was in a couple of people commented on my personal Facebook and on my Instagram, and they were extremely like, the movie's terrible, the movie's terrible. I gave it a strong review, and I said it from the stance of a Hispanic male who loved seeing the character develop and get a physical on-screen presence. There is a scene in the film where there's a receptionist that tells Jaime, she calls him Jamie. And he said, "No, my name is Jaime." And she goes, "Okay, Jamie." Now, as a person of color stating this, if you purposefully mispronounce someone's name, that is overtly disrespectful, racist, ignorant. And the movie did that, I know, as a purposeful statement, but there are people that have complained on my Facebook and on social media. And
As they should.
I'm going to tell you, kiss my ass. If you don't have a name that can be pronounced and you weren't a person of color and they mispronounce your name, if your name is Michael and they called you Michelle, you'd be pretty pissed off too.
Unless you're
And
that
they did,
bratty kid from Hancock, but that's another story.
but you understand what I'm saying. I
Yeah.
felt like I needed to make that comment, folks,
So
because it really did piss me off.
so here you can get both movies for $29.99 digital copy.
Now, if you don't like digital and you actually like physical media, Best Buy does have the
Yep.
box set. It's the Blu-ray box set. It's I think $34.99. That's if you want the steel case, and you get both films in there. Now let's cover the last film, which obviously Dave saw that, and I know Dave. Who don't we talk about?
We don't talk about Bruno.
No, no, no.
I will
Love
say
this
this:
film.
the music was. You might throw some hate. I like the music in this a little bit more than Coco.
I think it's because it's more up to beat. Up, it's more current to our time.
Well, the music was a little bit more narrative in here than with Coco, because Coco is more like, oh, he's getting the guitar, he's playing the song, he's trying to perform. This is like, it felt more traditional Disney as far as like
Yes,
musical storytelling,
it felt more like
and
a Frozen than it did like the Country Bears Jamboree.
I mean, I'll be honest, I resonated with this story. Okay.
Really, I
So
want to hear this. I'm
okay,
interested.
yeah,
You got me
well,
interested.
okay, I resonated with our heroine here, our lead.
Ah, she's
Um,
such a cool character.
I resonated with her because, not trying to get emotional or anything, but when I grew up, I was kind of like the person nobody paid attention to, the person who a lot of people didn't think would go and do things or could do things, you know, and she's kind of viewed as, because those that haven't seen this, long story short, this is a magical family. They get to a certain age and they get to choose, they get to approach a door, and this magical house will bless that person with an ability, a power, so to speak. We're not talking Superman, but we're talking like, if someone had the ability to heal with cooking, or to, you know, their mood could actually determine the weather outside, so to speak. Different things like that.
They could hear
And
people's conversations.
yeah, yeah. But our lead heroine, at her, when she gets to that certain age, the door vanishes on her, and she's not blessed with an ability. So, she's kind of the odd duck in the family. So I resonated highly with that. And it definitely hits at a point like, I'm sure all of us have felt at some point in our time, you know, am I good enough am I good enough? Should I even be a part of this family? Do I even belong here? That kind of a thing really resonated with me,
I resonate with Bruno. I'm more of
and
the Bruno character in my family.
let's I'm gonna jump on Dre here, and this is November 24th, 2021. We're kind of pandemic time. Was it around 2021?
This is November
Yeah,
24th, 2021. So
yeah,
you're talking this was not the height of the pandemic,
but the beginning.
but it was no, this is
Yeah.
the pandemic. It was this was the towards the end of where movies
Okay.
people were starting to trickle into theaters, but this did
Okay.
premiere
Yeah.
on Disney Plus first, then it did in theaters.
You get, let's take a look at the cast. You get Stephanie, Beatriz, if I'm saying that
Yeah,
correctly.
she's Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
I mean, like, I'm listening to voices. I'm like, wait a minute, that's John freaking Leguizamo there. I'm like, oh, and I'm
That's
like,
Bruno.
I was picking up on Wilmer Valderrama. We had a lot, a lot of pretty well known voices in here, and the music was on point. Again, you have this large family dynamic. Everyone's got their own way of doing things, and you got people heading, butting heads, and it felt like a really relatable family. But also, they had like real issues, like the one, they're not paying attention to the one daughter. because she doesn't have a gift, and they kind of like look at her like an odd duck, and it's it's just a really fun, and I mean it's very colorful, and I don't just mean that culture wise. I mean the art department on here. I mean people's features. Um, and don't
Well, there's a lot. Go ahead. I want to go into the culture because I know
and
the background of where the film takes
and
place.
don't hate me, but lead girl, she's a bit of a cutie, so that's all I'm gonna say.
So Mirabelle, the character Dave obviously identifies the most with is Mirabelle. The casita, which is what they call the house,
Yes.
that's their ancestral, what we would call an ancestral home, or in Latin American culture, it would be a hacienda. This casita that they live in is their family home that has the magical powers because it is believed that within the home the family has this magic that they cultivate. Now, people were wondering, does this take place in Mexico? Does this take place in Ecuador? Does this take place in El Salvador or Peru? The capybara, which is the little the toucans are sitting on, capybaras are indigenous to South America, but they're also indigenous to North America through Mexico. So many people felt that this film kind of straddles that line of Latin America, and it could be it could kind of fit in that mold. And as colorful as the film is, it's more probably the Yucatan Peninsula. We're thinking more Atlantic Ocean side than we are thinking Pacific Ocean. Just for you guys that are interested in knowing those little tidbits. Um, Obviously, like I said, I identify as Bruno because my family doesn't like to talk about Bruno because Dre's that black sheep. I'm like the one that'll tell you like it is, and Bruno's a little bit off his rocker. I'm a little off my rocker. It kind of works. Why the score is so prominent for those of you that have been hiding under a freaking under a rock. Lin Manuel Miranda, if you don't know that name, you did not see Hamilton, you've
Nope.
not seen In the Heights. Hell, you didn't even watch Sesame Street for about the last 10 years because Lin Manuel has written several songs, has done several albums, has collaborated with Latin artists all
I
over the
mean
globe.
he worked his way up because he did like little bit parts in TV commercials and TV
Mhm.
shows for years.
Actually, he came into lots of strong prominence inside of the Hollywood scene when Puerto Rico suffered when we had those major hurricanes
Hmm.
that took out the island, and when FEMA wasn't coming in, he wrote a song with Hector Elizondo, God, Gloria Estefan, several Latin American artists here and from Cuba, from everywhere, and
And
he
if you
brought them
mofos
out.
don't know who Gloria Stefan is, Google her.
Google. She's probably one of the best Latin American artists outside from that's Latin American. When I say that, really Caribbean American because he's from Puerto Rico. But I digress. Um, this he wrote the score, sings several songs on here, and has like gotten the cast to buy into the music. And when he writes it from a place of culture. He writes it from a place of research. He does his homework, and that's why it's such a very amazing, loved, so well done. That's why I agree with Dave. This Coco hits you in the heartstrings. This will make you dance. You'll dance to these
But
songs.
it's still very relatable, and I could see this being
Another classic, yeah.
it's definitely classic. Now, if I had to compare the two, uh I mean the characters I think are more enjoyable in here, but the
But I think you said
story
it
in
best.
Coco is very strong though.
Okay, Coco's story is something like Snow White, where the story is very tried and true. Here, I
Yes.
think like the fact that you say that Mirabelle relates to you
Yeah.
and you like can I identify with her. That to me says a lot because I identify with Bruno, and I even have a shirt that says "We don't talk about Bruno." I wore that at Disney. I love that shirt. But
And
it's
for those listening on Spotify, If they're just listening to the podcast, you don't see what we actually look like. I'm a 44-year-old white Caucasian who's an Irish Pollock, but I'm relating to this story. Okay, anybody can relate to this story.
Exactly, and that's the beauty part of
Dre
Disney.
has
When I
no
was,
hair, but he can relate to this.
yeah, Bruno got that mop of hair on his head, and then the rats. I hate rats, but he. I'm not going to go into the story, folks. This is by far another one of those. The Outer Dim, 100% certified. It's you fall in love with the family, and the family's dysfunctional, and we all know that families are extremely dysfunctional. And I think my wife and I said it. We're functionally dysfunctional. We're like that's how families work. And I think this film does a great job of painting that picture, getting you to feel for the characters. Once the characters even lose their magical abilities, how they have to react to being normal. It is such a great film. And I remember when I watched it the first time through, Lana, myself, Meredith, and Rory, we all sat down. Rory was still too little because Rory was a year, a little. Well, she was born in June 2020, so she was a little over a year old, year and a half when this film came out. She couldn't sit and watch it, but she could sit and watch Into the Spider Verse. So that lets you know that my daughter, who is also mixed, liked Encanto, but did not love it as much as she loves Into the Spider Verse. And we took her to see Across the Spider Verse, and she sat and watched that film too.
She is her
How
father's
that's going.
daughter.
Of course, she is her father's daughter. She knows better. She knows what's good. That's why she's gonna be Spider Gwen. Hello. So again, they said the Denver Post, John Wenzel wrote with Encanto alongside other films like West Side Story, which was they just redid that and that was really good. And Being the Ricardos, which they just did on Amazon, another great series. Which eventually maybe Dave and I will do like a mini series of like shows that kind of touch on things like that. Latino voices are having a moment in U.S. cinema, injecting a diverse set of cultures long ignored by TVs, books, movies, video games, stage shows, and news media. Folks, hey, it's our boy Wolfie. Good to have you
Wolfpack,
in here, brother. I'm gonna
what it do?
state
What it
this.
do?
I'm gonna state this. Dave said it best that you don't have to be Latino to really appreciate it, but the truth of the matter is, being Latino, we're getting more prominence in the media in a positive light. And I like that. I like that films like West Side Story, which we all know, you know, are about gangs in New York, and you know, it was about Puerto Rican gangs in the Bronx, and if you didn't see or know the story of West Side Story, you wouldn't get into that because they were like, oh, they were white actors in the 70s and 60s that did these movies. But when you update the cast and you give it that injection of what the culture was, the actors shine because they
Mhm.
feel invested. Listen, I can replace Tom Cruise in Top Gun, but would Top Gun still be Top Gun without him? Without Maverick? No. You need Tom Cruise. I can't have Tom Cruise not be Maverick. I can't have Michael Keaton not be Batman 89. I can replace him, but does it work? It doesn't. And it's not just the based on the color of his skin, it's based on the actor. Here I'm gonna base it on if you inject an actor into a role that they want to do, you see them shine. And this cast did that, and
Well,
I
I'm gonna
loved it.
I'm gonna say this. It was nice to see John Leguizamo, break out the old comedy chops
Yeah, it's been a
for
while
this.
because he's been very serious his last
Yeah,
couple of movies.
he's done serious stuff. I mean, like, I mean, I think he's
Well,
been doing
outside of his
serious
history,
stuff since
outside of
Romeo
Latin
and
American
Juliet.
history. No, no, no. Outside of his stage shows, because he did Latin American
Well,
history for dummies,
well
which
for
is hilarious.
but like movies, for just straight out movies though. Like, I mean, John Wick, um, Land of the
Yeah.
Dead, George Romero's
Yes.
Land of the Dead. I mean, he really like this is kind of like harking back to maybe not the pest, but it was definitely harking back to his old comedy roots, you know?
Chuang Fu.
Yeah.
I would say that, yes. So I can agree with you. I think everybody in this movie really cared about the cast, really cared about the music, and it really harkened. And then I did see, if you haven't watched on Disney Plus, folks, Encanto's live show of the of people singing the songs in Disneyland was at the Hollywood Bowl is phenomenal. It is a
Well,
great watch.
I don't like to throw shade, but I want to throw shade at Disney Plus. As much as they like to categorize their content, comic books, Spider-Man, action, Marvel, Star Wars, they did not have a section, they did not have a category for Hispanic content or Hispanic heritage at all.
But they did for Asian American Pacific Islander. They did it for AAPI. They did it for
Yeah,
Black History. I'm
but they
really surprised
didn't
they didn't
here
do anything.
because
I'm
I was going through
surprised.
Disney Plus because uh, when I watched Coco and Encanto, I was thinking, okay, I'm just going to do a search for like Hispanic heritage. They should have something up. They didn't, and I found that very surprising.
It
So
is
I'm
true.
throwing. So Dave's Dimension is throwing shade at Disney Plus. Okay,
No,
Disney.
the collective safe space throwing some shade because we
Okay,
offend
the
we
our
just
dim
scratch your
pod is
barks.
throwing shade at it right now. I'm just saying.
Listen, Disney.
Maybe there is one, but it wasn't like on the main screen, so it might be hidden somewhere. You know how like Netflix hides those different categories. Who knows? But
No, because
I just thought that was kind of weird.
that is. I have to admit, I'm a little perturbed because we just dropped like 9 grand in Disney last year.
This
Y'all could have given me. Yeah, you can't pay attention to my month.
they they
A
they,
month.
they got your money.
That's now. See, that's true. See, Wolfie, I agree with you. I agree with you. 100%. We do get left on the back burner, and I know
Hey,
now,
I'm just
I
saying.
don't want to argue. I don't want to argue with people because I know people are going to come and say, "Well, what about Black History? What about Asian?" Listen, everybody. I agree. As a historian, as an educator, as a
Hmm.
parent, I get it. But when I get to split my love between being both black and Puerto Rican,
Well,
guess what? I know we don't get a fair shake, and
Wolfpack
we do
says
get left on the we get.
two
Go ahead, Dave.
streams. So he's trying to show love on both. Technically, we're streaming this on 3 channels, and I'm sure there's other channels doing videos right now as well. But yeah,
I know, and we appreciate you, brother. Trust me. I mean, it sucks that we only get a month, but you know what though? To me, I celebrate the heritage, and if
hmm
you, and the thing is, that's all you have to do. Enjoy what you watch. You know, I can tell you on Black History Month what movies to watch. Should you watch Roots? Yes, you can watch Roots. It's depressing. It's a good film. I could tell you to watch for Asian American Pacific Islander. I could tell you to go watch The Last Samurai. I could tell you to go watch Memoirs of a Geisha.
I
You
mean,
know,
Last Samurai is good, although your main character is Tom Cruise.
yeah,
But he
that's why I
does
said
embrace the
Memoirs of a
culture
Geisha.
though.
That's why I said Memoirs of a Geisha.
Yeah.
You know, which is a great film and a great book. Um, but the thing is, a lot of people are starting to now realize that there's a macrocosm out there and are starting to get exposed to those things. And if our podcast listeners and our podcast watchers can really get into it, if we're shouting, listen, I'm not going to brag, but I'm going to brag on this. If
Brag.
we can do one thing that can change a person's point of view in a positive way, we did it right. And we've done it. Dave and I have proven it. This community's proven it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I can expose somebody to saying, "Hey, I didn't look at that movie this way. Let me rewatch it." You'd be surprised. You would be surprised. So I'm gonna end it on. I want to end this segment on this one. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
these animated films are fantastic films. Granted, Book of Life wasn't the greatest one, and Dave didn't have to watch it for me to say it. I agree with it. With him on it, it's not the greatest
Hmm.
one. But I will state this, folks. Next week, next week we have
A little bit of fun.
a a little bit of fun, a lot of fun. We have a double whammy hitting. You're going to get us from 7 till 9 p.m. You're going to get us streaming on not one, not two, not three, but four channels. And we are doing horror films for Hispanic Heritage Month.
By the way, did we update this, or do I need
I
to
did.
download?
I've
Okay,
I've I've
I'll have to
up,
pull it up.
I've updated the cheat sheet. There are several films on the cheat sheet, folks, that are new. If you guys have, um, I have to change one of the films because I couldn't find it anywhere to watch.
Okay,
But if you have access to Tubi, Amazon, or Shutter, you can watch several of the films. Obviously, Pan's Labyrinth is going to be on that list that we were talking about. Devil's Backbone. Um, we can go through a couple of them. And I'll tell you which ones that where you can
because
watch them.
because we had Devil's Backbone,
Yep, we're doing the Devil's Backbone.
and where can this
The
be viewed?
This can be viewed on Tubi.
Tubi. Okay,
Scroll over to the
it
next
is
one.
TUBI, people.
Yep,
In case anyone's wondering.
TUBI. It's free. It's free. Pan's
Hans
Labyrinth
Labyrinth,
this is on Max.
and I mean it's Guillermo del Toro and Doug Jones. I mean they've
No, no, no,
worked together.
don't give it. No, they don't get the rest of this. They don't get the special. They get the
It's just
little
a little
taste.
tease.
Yeah, we're giving them the spoon. Rec number 4. This is on Shutter. This is a Shutter exclusive. Don't know how it is. It's just a Shutter exclusive. So
Okay,
you have to find it on Shutter. Shudder. La
and this
Llorona,
one.
the Weeping Woman. This is also on Shutter streaming service, and that's how I had to find it. Um, you can sign up for it. Go to the next one.
That's it. Just those 4.
No, there was more.
I have to download the
Oh,
new
yeah.
version
Okay,
then.
he has to download the new one. All right, so the new one has Madres. Madres is an Amazon Prime exclusive film, subtitled. Let me get the other one. There's 2 more films.
So we're doing 6.
It's gonna be a total of 7. I found 7. Let me just
And how long is
uh
this episode?
2 hours. 2 hours. Because we're getting a guest, folks. Why that fourth channel? Who's that fourth channel, Dave? Tell them who that fourth channel is.
Do I?
You should give him a
EC
little
collecting.
taste. Yeah, our boy EC. He's going to be the special guest host, and he is a fellow horror fanatic, folks. He is a big time fan of the horror film genre. All right, so the films I've added to this. It's called Madres, Amazon original. You can watch it on Amazon right now. And this one I downloaded. It's a harder film to find. I think it's currently on Shutter. It's called The Bone Woman. The actual name is Huesera, Huesera. It is a very, very good film. A lot of these films were shown only at TIFF, which is the Toronto International Film Festival. So it did really, really well. It was kind of like it was the first film for this director last year.
That's like an hour from me. What are you talking about?
Toronto.
So, yeah, it's right over Canadian border, man. Bam.
I'm
Ain't
not
that-
from. I'm not Canada. I'm not Canadian, eh?
one of these years I need to go to the actual Toronto festival.
I would love to go up to there to see films. That I know it's a pain in the ass to get tickets. I know it's almost impossible to get invited, but they do let a small amount of non-media people in to see films. It's like a wait list of wait list of wait lists. I mean, people stand there all day. but you do get to actually go see the film with the people that were either the actors or actresses,
Yeah.
and
And
usually
of course,
the
this
directors.
year it's a little bit thinned out because of something going on, a little strike.
Yeah, yeah. So that's pretty obvious why why we discuss older films. And if you guys have seen Nerd Affiliated has very much said he's doing the same thing we're doing. We are teaming with them. We are not discussing anything really new. Um,
And that's gonna
because
be, that's
go
gonna
ahead.
be interesting because there's a small little Comic-Con appearing in New York City next month. And it's gonna be interesting to see who's gonna be there and what they actually are gonna be doing. Apparently they're still planning on doing panels and other stuff there, but that would be interesting to see how that works out.
Yeah, because they usually give a bunch of trailers are always shown, and they do drop a lot of release information. But since they just dropped the trailer for Percy Jackson yesterday, and
Mm-hmm.
Percy Jackson just got what was it? Um, they just put the release date up for Percy Jackson, and that's on the 20th of December. So we're not seeing a lot of things hit as
I
easy as they
mean,
are. So
I'm hoping for a certain trailer to drop personally next month.
Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters Firehouse. I mean, it's coming out in March. I would like to. I would like to have at least a teaser or something drop. Doesn't even have to be a full blown trailer. It could just be a little teaser to whet the appetite. That's all I'm asking for.
So Dave, you always ask me what I have coming up. What do you have? We're gonna start with you. What do you have coming? Do you have any other projects you got doing going on this week?
Well, I'm actually in the middle of doing some modifications to some of my equipment here, and I'm actually recording some of that.
Nice.
But that probably won't be coming out for another week or so because I have to sort through all the videos and do a bunch of editing. I did get some GI Joes this week, and I need to do some unboxes, but I have to do that within the next 2 days because I'm going to be in Ohio over the weekend, so I'm not going to be really able to do much. So, but yeah, I'm hoping to get something out, a video or two out, for the weekend or for next week. So we'll see. I know I've been a little laxed on that lately, but been kind of busy with everything.
All right. That's still not bad. That's not bad.
Yeah,
Um, it-
and of course next week Wednesday, our stream
well, obviously we have our stream next week.
with
So from
with
go ahead.
our second guest, our second ever guest.
Hmm.
Don't
Now
worry, Colin. If you're watching, we'll be gentle. Don't worry.
we'll try. We'll try. Um, as far as what I have going on,
Cobb says
Mon-
Tubi is awesome.
it is Monday. I have uh Rex from Millennium Workshop coming on the member
Hmm.
spotlight for the Collector Safe Space.
Or as I
That'll
like to call
be
him, Rex in effects.
that's going to be
Hey,
7 p.m. Eastern.
he builds props, so it's effects work. So yeah, he's Rex in effects. Come on.
And then on Wednesday, we have our show. And you guys know I do drop an episode every Wednesday at noon. Today's episode was a recap on the growth of manga in the US and how American comic books are competing with it. Um, it didn't get a lot of views, but I don't expect it's more of an informational kind of video than it is a like fun kind of hee hee ha ha video. So to each their own. It's an interesting video to watch. Um, and that's kind of where we're at. Like tune in next week. It's a big long episode, 2 hours. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to it. I know Dave is. I know Colin is, and
Yeah, it's gonna
we're
be.
gonna
It's
leave you. We're gonna leave you
yeah.
with that.
We're saying 2 hours, but you guys know us.
No,
I
it's gonna
mean,
be 2 hours because my wife's gonna yell at me.
this was an hour and a half for
And I
four
already got yelled
films.
at.
So if we're
I
doing
already got.
six, well,
And I've,
I mean, you're always getting yelled at.
but she loves me, so I'll just take. I think she's tired. It's been a
And
long day for her.
she's just waiting for that life insurance to kick in.
It's already yeah. Once progressive. That's funny. Working for the insurance company. So again,
Hey,
folks, it's your boy. You know who we are. We're not gonna even tell you. It's your boy Dre. It's your boy Dave. We're good. We love you guys. Watch your heads on the way out of the portal, guys. And we'll see you next week with our guest, Colin, EC
Yep.
Collecting.
So catch you on the flip side, guys. Take care. And don't forget to check us on Spotify and wherever you get your podcasts from. And the Outer Dim Pod on Twitter, aka the X.
Until they start
You,
charging us, and we're gonna quit.
yeah, then we're gonna vanish. We're dropping off that. Instagram at the Outer Dimensions Podcast. You can also email us at the Outer Dimensions Podcast at gmail.com. So until next time, guys, catch you on the flip side.
Peace.